This is Cameron Key. I attend Edinboro University of Pennsylvania. I am interviewing Dr. Adrian Dixion on February 22nd, 2017, in her office in Edinboro University. This interview is being recorded as a part of the Inclusive Future Faculty Initiative, sponsored by the Frederick Douglass Institute Collaborative of Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education. The interview is being recorded on her laptop. What is your full name?
Adrian Dixon McCullum.
What is your department rank and what university are you currently employed?
I'm employed at Edinboro University and I am a assistant professor in the counseling and school psychology and special education department.
How long have you worked at this university?
This is actually my 5th year and I just actually got tenure this year.
How long have you been employed as a professor?
Actually, I've been employed, this is my official 5th year here at the university, but I've taught for the past 8 years.
What made you decide to go to graduate school to pursue a terminal degree?
You know, honestly, my degree was initially around, my field is counseling, so my degree was really around driven by service. I worked in the field. I worked with a predominantly minority population and people of color, Latinos and African Americans. And so part of going for my terminal degree at the time was about there were not many people of color who had advanced degrees to be able to treat at the level that I wanted to provide service to. So there was limitations to access for people of color, and I wanted to shift their access to professionals who were of color that could understand some of the cultural dynamics.
And what point did you decide that you wanted to be a professor?
You know, I went kicking and screaming on that one because even in undergrad, I had a professor who encouraged me to take education as a minor, and for whatever reason, I just didn't see the linkages between education and teaching and what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a counselor. I didn't see necessarily that they were connected until later in my professional development, probably when I started my PhD program many moons ago. I saw the linkage between educating emerging counselors and emerging clinicians, that could be a very powerful vehicle to help put people who are highly skilled and trained, and particularly people of color, into the field. So.
And what are your responsibilities as a faculty member here?
You know, it's a challenge because obviously the primary responsibility is developing syllabi to provide quality instruction to students. But I think beyond that, you know, that's one portion of it, about doing that planning and preparation and then the delivery in a classroom setting or a virtual setting. But beyond that, I think it's about professional development, making sure I'm connected to professional organizations that help me to stay current with standards, regulatory components, certifications that really challenge me around scholarly activities. So a huge part of my time is spent collaborating with other colleagues and researching so that I'm up to date in the field and I'm current and I'm staying active, so that those are things that I'm translating in the classroom to students. I think in addition to that is their service as a faculty member, not only to the immediate community, meaning the Edinboro community, things that I do here on campus, different committees that I sit on, advising students, collaborating with other departments and components across the campus that just better our community at Edinboro, but also within my profession, just, you know, service to the community at large around who I am as a counselor, who I am as a professor with an advanced degree or in a educational institution, and how we are going to support the community.
So with all that, what's a day in the life of Dr. Dixion?
Oh my, a day in the life is certainly maybe advising students. I think working with students, because our students work in a professional field, there's lots of supervision and site visitations that I do. I go out to sites to ensure that the places who are hosting our students are providing them with an appropriate environment and sound supervision. Actually, my day-to-day started out very early on, popping around the sites and then coming on campus and meeting with a student to advise them around their plan of study and making some tweaks, and then doing some community service where this is CK0082018 Advocacy Week. So our accreditation body is looking at advocating and bringing awareness around counseling. So we've been running seminars and webinars all day today. So I was presenting earlier to a group of students on, current trends in counseling, and working with our multicultural director, Katrina Monero, who came in and she did a presentation on diversity in higher education and what that looks like in terms of educating students in a university setting. And so just, the day can be very diverse. And then now I'm sitting here with you, and after you, I'll be meeting with a group of interns who are on field placement, about their field placements, and checking in with them. And after that, hopefully checking in with my online class before I leave here.
So what are some of the benefits to being a professor?
I think the benefit is, for me, I wanted to be a clinician, a counselor, because of the ability to help and give and guide, support people. And I think as a professor, you get a lot of that just in a different context. So it's very rewarding to me and very satisfactory that I get to pour into students and to help develop and mentor them, and that I'll have an impact on the discipline in the field in a much broader way, because I'm supporting others going out to the field who are going to make an impact. I think the other benefit is, again, I love to be inquisitive and learn information. And so I think in this context, you're constantly being challenged to learn and to be current with what's going on, with what's in the research, and challenged about presenting and, being the expert in your field. And so I think that's very rewarding to me.
And how do you have tenure? So how do professors get advanced in positions on the university?
That's a great question. I think advancement happens on a number of levels. And, tenure is one of those things that really every professor wants to get. It really speaks to your colleagues about the work and the commitment that you put in. It really demonstrates your scholarly effort, as well as your commitment to service both internally to the institution as well as to the community around you. So there's a number of things that get taken into context, your commitment and contribution to your department and your program, but also to the institution and to the community around it. And certainly scholarly work is a huge component of that. I think in terms of just general, how do people make advancements in institutional settings or educational settings, there's this thing called promotion. And so you don't have to have tenure to be looking to be promoted, and your promotionary packets really speak to the work that you're doing and that you're saying to your colleagues and to your department and to the administrative body that here's these things I'm doing to contribute to this institution and to this community, and wanting to be recognized for that. And so moving steps. And so with promotion, obviously there's the recognition of that, but there's also some financial compensation that goes along with that.
And what are some of the misconceptions of the professorate, and what are your opinions on those misconceptions?
I think, sometimes there's a couple of, depending on how you're looking at it. For me, I think sometimes the general public may misperceive the life of a professor, that, all they're doing is teaching in a classroom. It's really easy. And I think, it's a challenge when you have the responsibility and the obligation to educate the, folks who are going to be out in the workforce, who are going to be the folks delivering whatever your area of discipline is. And so it's not a passive thing. It's constantly, making sure that you're well educated and you're up to date on what's going on in the field, but also it's an active involvement with your students. It's not just, seeing them in the classroom, but there's so much more that goes beyond mentoring them and nurturing them and advising them, making sure that they're on the right path and helping them make those connections and networking for them. So I spend a great deal of time also networking with community resources around where students are going to be placed and where students can do, you know, externships and internships and practicum placements so that they're getting the kinds of support and experiences that are going to ensure that they're, you know, well-trained and competent counselors when they go out into the field.
You said that a lot of your passion to be a professor came from the underrepresentation of minorities. And so would you say that it's important to you to instill in underrepresented minorities for them to want to be professors as well?
Absolutely. I think, you know, I think back to my own transition in terms of my professional career, and I get it now in undergrad that that's what my professor was trying to do. He was not only encouraging me clinically to go on, but he also saw something, you know, that I didn't even see in myself at the time around being an educator. And so I do think that, you know, it's important as a person of color, particularly as a woman of color, to reach out and support and mentor others about that pathway. A lot of it I fell into, I figured it out. I wish I had had a mentor who would have really clearly helped me identify a pathway. I think once I, you know, landed on the road, was very humbled and very gracious to have people in my life who really tried to direct that and supported me in that. And so I think it's important, it's critical, really. I think when you look at the ultimate outcome, not just to the individual themselves about taking that pathway and the benefit to them, but the benefit to society as a whole, about ensuring that we have a diverse population who are in the higher ed system and who are contributing to our society by training the workforce or contributing to research or contributing to the education of folks who are going to be in various capacities. So.
And lastly, is there anything else, like key points of being a professor or things that drove you to be a professor that we didn't talk about?
I think we hit them all. Again, I think the passion of ensuring that the community, people of color in the community had access, that they just to appropriate healthcare, meaning from a diverse and a cultural perspective. But in addition to that, that they saw representation of people who look like them, and just watching others or being able to interface on a professional level with people who looked like them, who understood them from a very worldview perspective, has such a huge ripple in terms of the lives on people and their ability to be inspired and encouraged. And so for me, that's what it's all about. If I just can look back and say, oh, here's one of my students will be graduating, young woman of color will be graduating from Gonnon University this coming year. And it's just exciting to know that transition from, we went from, you know, mentor to mentee, supervisor, instructor to student, and she's going to be, you know, she's colleague now. And it's so exciting to me. I mean, like, that's like the greatest accolade to me.
That's all I have. Thank you very much, Dr. Dixion, for participating.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. Appreciate it. Not for me to stop.